World models. That's the new research direction I want to go in. I've been doing more and more looking into the field. I think it's just exciting. I think it gets my brain like I don't know if tingling is the right word, right? The way I feel about quantum computers is the way I feel about world models and just spatial AI because it just interests me. I like for quantum computers, I could not explain it to you, right? I have very little knowledge, but I like learning about it. And that's how I feel about world models, spatial AI, and all of that. And I think for that reason, I want to try and shift my research direction there. I also think it's nice because for the longest time, if I was being critical of myself and maybe overly critical, I would say that a lot of my research interests are just the amalgamation of the research professors I've applied to. Like I just take I take a research direction from one person, another person. Like this direction I'm going in. That's why it's always been so weird when it's like, oh, what research interest are you like when they ask me like or when it's on the application when they ask like, oh, what research interest are you interested in? In my head, it's just like I'm interested in whatever is hiring. I think there's that's not precisely what always happens, but I think that's a general tendency. But I think world models just interest me in general. I think I want to keep on looking into it until I get bored, or it's just like until I find nothing else interesting or exciting to learn. Um, yeah. That being said, I don't even think like logistically. I think there's so many stuff I have to learn. I was doing. I led a what was it I led yesterday? It was a deep learning. Yeah, no, it wasn't deep. Oh, it was reinforcement learning. I led the reinforcement learning workshop the other day, yesterday, and there was like so many. I had to study so much because of a lot of stuff I wasn't sure about, and there's so many gaps I have to address. Like I feel like if I can even start talking about world models and meaningful land, I think there's more work I have to do. Um, at least on the foundational knowledge side. But I think when it comes to like building stuff, I can still be doing stuff. I think with Crowdflow that's something easily that's something that could shift this direction just but a bit to be more in tandem with the work with world models and spatial AI. Um will I probably not like as of now because there's a lot of groundwork I'm still laying down for Crowdflow. And it's like I haven't even gone to that stage where it's like has anything I would say that's particularly meaningful. Like the coolest thing about Crowdflow right now is I can just see a bunch of particles just moving and interacting with one another, but like that's it. So I don't think it's in an area where like I can make any meaningful change direction wise because like even if I make a change now, it doesn't do anything for the current specs of the project. But that's something as I get more, as I build more and more for Crowdflow, that I'll be thinking about. Um, I do think it's exciting. It's a topic that I know a little about right now. But I think I want to learn more. I think the last time, this isn't true, but it's close enough. The last time I felt the way I felt about this was when I was learning about RAG, retrieval augmented generation 2 years ago. And the reason I felt really excited about RAG was because I really want to get into AI research, right? I was like fresh out of high school or in my senior year, my junior year of high school. And then a lot of the AI concepts were like really, really confusing. Deep learning, reinforcement learning, just all of that, transformers and all of that were really, really confusing. And I remember I saw a video about RAG. I think it was a Reddit post. Funny enough, I'll get to Reddit in a second. I saw a Reddit post about RAG. I was like, yeah, this makes sense intuitively, right? And I was just like, okay, I'll just look into it more. I looked into it. I was like, oh, this makes sense. Cut to a couple months later, maybe a year later, I build a RAG chatbot. Then I get hired by Your Stance Engagement, build a RAG chatbot again, which is even better than the first one I did. Kind of like a BM25 thing search. I did like a hybrid BM25 search thing, and then after that, since it didn't take that much time to like get like the pipeline going, I did like an evaluation framework, and that was really exciting. I learned a lot. I feel like that was a really cool evolution. I kind of want to have that for world models, like the same way. Like I don't think I understand, but I feel that excitement. I kind of want to see where I can go with and what cool stuff I can build. And with everything, there's obviously career aspects to it. I actually when it comes to career like um trajectory of something like this, I have no idea to be honest. I think that's something I should still look into. I think I obviously know that it's a promising area. I think something I do struggle with when I always trying to like plan stuff like this is that it's hard for me to understand like business to business companies, right? Like a B2B. Because the way I interact with companies and tech it's on like it's a consumer level. It's like I'm using Spotify. Like when I'm using Spotify, I don't think about the relations between Spotify and other music labels. I just think about like Spotify's playing my songs and they have a Spotify Wrapped at the end of the year. So then understand how I don't understand like how a B2B fully works. So then the reason I say that is because for something like world models, a lot of the media applications you think of wouldn't be something that will be immediately accessible on like the consumer level. Like you wouldn't build a world model, then someone like a random Joe go on world model.ai or whatever and then play with the world model. It's more so like you could maybe create like synthetic data to train create environments and stuff like that to train robots. That's not like something that you do with like the average person. It's more like a business to business partnerships. Like that's why you have companies like Nvidia look into stuff like that. I think it's called Cosmos for them. So that's something I'm still wrapping my head around. And I think it's something I have been having to do more and more as like the roles I do or the interests I have become more technical. It's like okay, now it's like I have to think beyond my daily interactions with technology. um, but about Reddit. So I found the way I found about RAG was through subreddits. And that's been something I've been using to follow along with tech and just different research angles for a long time. I didn't want to use Twitter because the first time I used Twitter, it was like I don't know what happened, but it's like I did a tweet and then someone said a mean comment. I got really scared. I wasn't scared about the tweet, the mean comment, but I was scared that my mom was gonna find out for some reason. I would get in trouble. And then this was like when I was 15 maybe, so I just never used it for like 4 years. I'm 19 now. I just never used it for 4 years. Then eventually I convinced myself, my brother actually convinced me. That's a really great place to find a bunch of researchers and see what's going on. So I got it back. Um, but in that 4 years, I had to find another avenue to follow along with tech trends and research angles, and Reddit was that avenue. So then something I'm trying to think of now is okay, I think it'll be really cool with spatial AI or world models since it's still I think I think since it's still very early on and it's not a very crowded field in my opinion, I think it'll be really cool to have a subreddit. And then right now I was looking, there's not really any crowded ones, so this is probably like the most embarrassing thing I've done. But I created one. Um I think I'm just gonna have that for now. I don't think people are gonna obviously be posting, but I think what I could do that would be really interesting is kind of have that my own Substack almost where I just post my progress of learning. And if people want to join and post like I found this is a really cool resource, blah blah blah, that would be awesome. um if that happens, I don't know, but it's a cool thing nonetheless. I think what I like about myself as a person is that the way I work is I have cool ideas, I pray about it, and then I do it, and sometimes they lead to awesome things, sometimes they just like disappear, sometimes it leads to a failure that I learn and do a cooler thing. I think that's why I'm finding spontaneous things like this, because this was just like a random this was a random decision like in the middle of the day. I was like, "Look, I'm just going to do this because it seems exciting, so we'll see where this goes." um but yeah, I think it's a nice new research direction. So right now, if someone was to ask me research directions, I would say using quantum computers for optimizations of different problems and world models or spatial AI. And then if it was more so like in the large language model side or just more stuff on that end, probably stuff like multimodal systems, embedded systems, or I forgot those like my two main ones that I'm really personally interested in are world models and just quantum computers for optimization problems. I think that's really exciting to actually have that concretely and not be an amalgamation of different research professors I'm applying to. So that's awesome to see that progress. But besides that, I have nothing else to say. So have a great day.